Both doors flew open, and before Hunter stood a man who appeared just a few years older than him, with impeccably trimmed, shoulder-length black hair and a dark blue velour bathrobe with a white G in the same style that had been on his wax seal. "Gibson," Hunter said evenly, ignoring the robe's ostentatious nature, choosing to avoid Gibson's deliberate, seductive glance, and holding the rose between his fingers. "What are you up to with these?" "My, Hunter," Gibson said, his low voice oozing sexuality. "How delectable you look this late in the evening." Hunter rolled his eyes. "Answer me," he said. "Do come in," Gibson replied, smiling sweetly, gesturing with one arm. "Make yourself comfortable." "That's a joke," Hunter mumbled. "Heard that." Gibson sung the words in a teasing fashion. "I know," came the two-note reply. "But seriously, what is this?" Hunter set the rose on the glass coffee table as he sat down at the bright white settee. Gibson took the sofa opposite of him. "The first one was flattering, intriguing, I'll admit. The second one was concerning. But this one? At headquarters of all places. Don't you think people will start to talk? They'll think I'm sleeping with the enemy," Gibson smirked. "It's not funny," Hunter snapped. "Oh, pish." Gibson waved the rejection away with his well-manicured hand. He spoke in a high-class accent one might associate with rich snobbery. "Of course it is. The last 2 times you've been here, you've behaved like a perfect gentleman, despite my assurances that you didn't have to." He winked. That right there." Hunter threw up his hands in exasperation. "I've made it clear from the beginning, I'm not here to sleep with you. I wouldn't do that to Kai." "I know," Gibson said, elongating the words as if he were sympathetic to Hunter's quandary. He reached over and raised Hunter's chin with his fingers. "And believe me, it is precious." As Gibson stood up from the sofa and tied his hair back, Hunter blinked in stunned silence at his brazenness. "So why do you keep on talking like that?" "I'm simply trying to be friendly with you," Gibson said, walking to a far room of the giant suite. "That is what you wanted from this, isn't it?" "I said I wanted a friendly way of resolving this issue," Hunter retorted. "You know something I can't have my superiors knowing. At least not right now. I need to know what you're going to do with that information." "Food first," Gibson said. "We're going to have a nice, civilized dinner, and then we can talk shop." "Agreed?" Hunter sighed, rubbing his eyes in frustration. "Agreed." "Splendid. You go." Hunter's eyes darted to the door of the bedroom where Gibson stood. Stumbling out of the bedroom was a very nearly nude young man of about 22 or 23, sleepy-eyed, locks of blonde hair in a nest of confusion. "Absolutely not," Hunter began to protest. "Come now," Gibson said, admonishing Hunter's objection and instructing his suite mate to make his way to the sofas in the same sentence. "We don't deny our vampiric nature in this room." That one was directed at Hunter. "There's nothing in your organization's little parchments that says feeding from a live source is out of bounds." As his stomach began to beg out for sustenance, Hunter scanned his brain for anything he could say to refute Gibson's words. There wasn't. Gibson was right. The Order had specific rules about vampires killing, not feeding. It was just Kai's preference that they stock their fridge with pre-siphoned blood, courtesy of his medical connections. Kai had taught Hunter how to feed out of necessity. A vampire that didn't know how to hunt was vulnerable in unexpected situations. They had often gone into some of the seedier areas in town, or set up situations where they can be confronted with a petty thug or some other career criminal. That pretty much eliminated any guilt either vampire had about live feeding. Karmic retribution, in a sense. But they hadn't really discussed how to respond to those who offered themselves freely. There are so many things Kai and I still haven't discussed, Hunter realized. He turned to Hugo, who had sat himself to Hunter's right, in the center of the sofa. Gibson sat down on the remaining seat, thinking swiftly. Hunter made himself think of peaceful rivers, serene landscapes, and other things that he sought when he needed to remain calm. A soft sensation washed over him, and his eyes began to emit an emerald green glow. "Are you sure that this is all right with you?" Hunter asked, making sure Hugo's gaze met his and cementing the connection. "Oh yeah," the man said, dreamily. "I'm his favorite pet." Hunter frowned and looked at Gibson for an explanation. Gibson put up his hands in gleeful defense. "Term of endearment, I swear." Disengaging his psychic influence, Hunter's eyes changed back from an intense, light-filled green to his usual soft violet hue. "This is not wrong to do," he told himself. "I'm not breaking any rules here, and Hugo said it was all right." Hunter's fangs had already descended. The sensation would always take him by surprise. It reminded him of the time he had his wisdom teeth removed. He was awake for the procedure, completely numb, but he still felt when the robot-assisted extractor tool pulled the tooth out. It was that pop that jolted in his body. The same sensation when his fangs exposed caused him to yelp softly. "Ah, so cute," Gibson marveled, letting his own fangs extend. They then both descended slowly on Hugo's neck, biting into him in unison.